Here's the thing nobody tells you about Vegas. It doesn't make you do anything. It just removes every single excuse you've been hiding behind for the last 3 years.
I know that now. I didn't know it then.
The flight from London to Las Vegas is 11 hours. 11 hours of recycled air, terrible wine from a plastic cup, and Imogen Clarke pressed against my shoulder because she always falls asleep before the seatbelt sign even turns off. I've known Imogen since we were 19. We met in the queue for freshers registration at UCL, both of us clutching our acceptance letters like they might disappear. She was wearing a yellow sundress in October, completely impractical for London, and her dark hair was piled on top of her head in the kind of effortless way that I later learned took her 45 minutes to achieve. She turned around, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "I'm terrified. Are you terrified?
I said yes.
She grabbed my hand. And that was that. 12 years later, her hand was still the first one I reached for. The trip had been her idea. Imogen worked as a copywriter for a boutique ad agency in Soho, and she'd just landed the biggest campaign of her career, a luxury skincare brand that everyone in London had been fawning over. Her bonus had cleared on a Friday, and by Monday morning, she had booked us 2 first-class tickets to Las Vegas. "We deserve this," she'd said, sliding the confirmation email across my desk. "You've been working yourself to death for 18 months, Riley. You need Vegas." I was a structural engineer. I had deadlines. I had a presentation to a city council in 3 weeks. I had every reason to say no. I looked at the email. I looked at Imogen. I said yes. That was always how it worked with us. We landed at McCarran on a Thursday afternoon in June, and the heat hit us like opening an oven door. Imogen threw her arms wide, tilted her face up to the sky, and laughed. "God, I love it here," she announced to no one in particular. "You've never been here," I reminded her. "I know. I love it anyway." She was like that. Imogen could love things before she understood them. I had always envied that about her. The way she moved through the world like it owed her joy, and somehow it kept paying up. Our hotel was one of those enormous places on the Strip that have their own weather system inside. We had a room on the 32nd floor with a view that made me grip the window ledge and just stare. The whole city spread out below us like a circuit board lit up against the desert dark, even though it was still afternoon. "Okay," I said quietly. "I understand now." Imogen appeared beside me, champagne flute already in hand. She'd found the minibar in under 4 minutes, a personal record. She handed me a glass without being asked. "To us," she said. I clinked my glass against hers. "To us." We drank. Outside, Las Vegas glittered. The first night was everything you'd expect and nothing you'd plan. We started at a rooftop bar that Imogen had found in a travel blog, cocktails the color of jewels, music that came through the floor as much as the air. She was wearing a black silk slip dress and gold earrings, and strangers kept stopping to tell her she was beautiful, and she would smile and say thank you, darling, in her warm, slightly posh London accent, and they would walk away flustered. I watched her do this approximately 11 times. I had been watching her do this for 12 years. Here is the thing I had been not saying for most of those 12 years. I was in love with Imogen Clarke.
Catastrophically. Completely.
In the kind of way that had quietly reorganized my entire life around her without me ever making a decision about it. I hadn't told her. Because Imogen was my best friend, and best friends were rare and precious and difficult to replace, and I was, above all things, a structural engineer. I understood load-bearing walls. I knew which ones you could not afford to knock down. So I watched her from across rooftop bars in Las Vegas, and I drank my cocktail, and I said nothing. We moved from bar to bar the way you do in Vegas, time dissolving, the night pulling you forward. Somewhere along the way we ended up in a casino, and Imogen won $300 at blackjack on pure instinct, and was furious that I wouldn't let her put it all back on one hand. "You're no fun," she informed me. "I'm the responsible one," I said. "You've always known this. Being responsible is deeply unsexy, Riley." "Thank you. I'll add that to my list of concerns." She laughed and leaned into my side, and I caught the smell of her perfume, something warm and floral that I could have identified blind in any room, and I thought, "This is fine. I am fine. Everything is completely fine." Everything was not fine. It was somewhere past midnight when we ended up on the rooftop of a smaller hotel several blocks off the Strip. I still don't entirely know how we got there. Imogen had struck up a conversation with a woman at the bar who turned out to be attending a bachelorette party, and somehow we had been absorbed into it, and then somehow we had followed the group upstairs, and now the city was spread out below us, and someone was playing music from a portable speaker, and it was warm and dark, and I was drunker than I'd been in years. Imogen found me standing at the edge of the roof, looking out at the lights.
There you are, she said.
She had 2 glasses of champagne. She handed me one. It was becoming a motif. Here I am. She stood beside me. For a while neither of us spoke. Are you happy? She asked eventually. I looked at her. The city lights caught the line of her cheekbone, the curve of her mouth. Right now. In general, she said. But also right now. I thought about it honestly, the way you can only do when you're tired and drunk and standing on a rooftop in Las Vegas at midnight. Right now, I said carefully, is one of the best moments of my life. Imogen turned to look at me. Her expression was something I didn't quite have a word for, soft and searching and serious all at once. Riley, she said.
Don't, I said.
I haven't said anything yet. I know what you're about to say. Do you? She set her champagne glass down on the ledge. She turned to face me fully. The music from the speaker floated over to us, something slow and inevitable. What am I about to say? My heart was doing something architecturally unsound. I could feel the structural failure happening in real time. Something that changes things, I said. Imogen looked at me for a long moment. Then she reached up and touched my face, just her fingertips, just briefly, and said, very quietly, or something that finally makes things make sense. I kissed her first.
I want to be clear about that.
After 3 years of saying nothing, after 12 years of watching her from across every room we'd ever shared, I was the one who closed the distance. I was the one who finally stopped being so carefully structural about everything. She kissed me back immediately, like she'd been waiting, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. When we finally broke apart, she pressed her forehead against mine, and I could feel her smiling even before I looked. Took you long enough, she whispered. 12 years, I agreed. I wanted to be thorough. She laughed, that real laugh, the one that crinkled her nose, and kissed me again. What happened next is both very clear and somewhat impressionistic. We left the rooftop. We walked. The city was warm and bright, and the night felt like it had been built specifically for this moment. Impressionistic, at some point there was a chapel. Las Vegas is full of chapels the way other cities are full of coffee shops, and this one had a pink neon sign and fake flowers in the window and a man in a BOLO tie who asked us if we were sure. Absolutely certain, Imogen had said, in her most authoritative London voice. I had said, let's do it. Because apparently 12 years of careful restraint, once breached, does not do things by halves. I woke up to sunlight coming through curtains that were not my curtains, in a bed that was not my bed, with a warmth against my back that I recognized before I was fully awake. Imogen. I lay very still. I looked at the ceiling. I cataloged the facts. 1. My head hurt. 2. I was wearing the silk robe the hotel provided, which meant at some point I had changed. 3. There was a piece of paper on the bedside table. 4. The piece of paper appeared to be a marriage certificate. I picked it up. Certificate of marriage. Riley Ashworth and Imogen Clarke. County of Clarke, Nevada. I set it back down. You're looking at the certificate, said Imogen's voice behind me. She sounded awake, alert, suspiciously calm. I am. I've already looked at it twice. I turned over. She was lying on her side, watching me, dark hair loose on the pillow, morning light catching the gold of the ring on her left hand. I looked at my own left hand. There was a matching one. We got married, I said. We did, she confirmed. In Las Vegas. At a chapel called Everlasting Love on Fremont Street, yes. I stared at her. How are you so calm? Imogen was quiet for a moment. Then she propped herself up on one elbow and looked at me with that direct, clear-eyed look she'd had since she was 19 years old in a yellow sundress, the one that saw right through everything. Because, she said carefully, I've been in love with you for approximately 8 years. And I know you. And I know last night wasn't just the champagne. My chest did something complicated. 8 years, I said. Give or take. I've had 12 years. Imogen stared at me. Then she made a sound that was half laugh and half something more fragile. You, 12. Riley, I have wasted so much time being cool about this. You were being cool? I was the one being cool. I was absolutely being cool. I was incredibly cool. I was so cool I nearly set myself on fire with it. I thought you only saw me as a friend. I have never once seen you as only a friend. And you were always so comfortable, so easy with everyone, I thought. Riley. She grabbed my hand. The ring on her finger pressed against mine. We are idiots. I looked at her hands. I looked at her face. This face I had looked at 10,000 times, in 100 different lights, in every version of ordinary and extraordinary life. We are idiots, I agreed. But we're married idiots now, apparently. Imogen looked at the certificate on the bedside table. Then she looked at me. A slow smile started at the corner of her mouth. I mean, she said, we could get it annulled. We could. We probably should get it annulled. Probably. A pause. Or, she said, we could stay married and go get breakfast and figure out how to do this properly. I looked at her. I thought about every room she'd ever made better just by walking into it. I thought about 11 hours on a plane with her asleep on my shoulder. I thought about champagne on a rooftop and the city lights and the way she'd said, or something that finally makes things make sense. I want the Eggs Benedict, I said. The place downstairs looked good. Imogen's smile went full, whole, incandescent. The Eggs Benedict place it is. We did not get it annulled. We did, eventually, get a real wedding, 18 months later, in a garden in the Cotswolds, with both our families, and Imogen's mum crying before the ceremony even started, and my sister making a speech that lasted 22 minutes and included a slideshow. But when people ask us how it happened, when they want the story, and people always want a story, I tell them about the rooftop. I tell them about the night the city was spread out below us, and she touched my face and said the thing that finally made everything make sense. And Imogen always adds, from wherever she's standing. Asterisk, we were idiots for 12 years first, though. Don't skip that part. That's the important part. Asterisk.
She's right.
It usually is. Here's what I've learned. Vegas doesn't make you do anything. It just strips away the story you've been telling yourself about why now isn't the right time, why the risk is too great, why the wall is load-bearing. Sometimes the wall isn't load-bearing. Sometimes you can knock it down, and the whole building just opens up.